my take on the Sifan Hassan 1 mile run, 4 minutes 12.33 seconds on Friday, 12 July 2019. I'm Tanis Leonhardi. This is my YouTube channel, Tanis Leonhardi. I'm filming this Monday, 29 January 2024. Here I talk through the Sifan Hassan 1 mile run at the 2019 Wanda Diamond League competition in Monaco. Excuse me. I kind of have the hiccups. It was a bigger one. Time of 4 minutes and 12.33 seconds in the final on Friday, 12 July 2019. With her time, she achieved a personal best time and a world record. I provide my take/perspective on her performance and contextualize it in terms of where I was at the time it happened in Scotland, how long it took me to learn about the new world record, different running physiques, and my first time training run or walk run with my new pair of Brooks Launch 10 shoes, which was my 5.08 mile walk run set today that I dedicate today, Monday, 29 January 2024, that I dedicated as inspired by Arne Andersson and experienced vocalizations by a frog, a gray squirrel, and a northern flicker for Arne, Sifan, and Doris Brown Heritage. Okay, so that's a lot. It was in watching the race. So let's start with the take my perspective on the race. She finished far ahead of the pack, so to speak. Like she was ahead of a bit ahead of everybody else. She is her physique is actually pretty similar to mine. Doesn't necessarily mean we have the same running style. She's far more graceful than I am. But she has very strong legs, and it showed in the run kind of thing. Okay, and I thought she was a well-poised runner, even when she appeared to be struggling with the race a little bit. She was well-poised is a word I might use. And a dignified winner and world record setter. Okay, so that's my take/perspective. Now contextualization, since I have a number of these, I'm just going to go through them. One, where I was at the time it happened. So I was in Scotland. So a lot of running world records are set outside of the continent of North America. And since I've spent over 29 years living on the continent of North America, I have not actually been in close physical proximity to world records when they're set. And I was on the continent of Europe, and Monaco is what, somewhere by like France and Italy. It was set on the continent of Europe. So it was the closest I've been to one of these world records, and semi-aware of the physical proximity aspect of me to the world record. So that, for me, like that actually does factor into this one. I was like, 12 July, I was in Scotland. In that month, July 2019, I was in both France and Scotland. I flew via France both into and out of Scotland, Great Britain, United Kingdom. But at that day was in Scotland. So it's like, well, there we go. I'm actually, that's pretty cool, because the world record before that was like, what, 1993 or something like that. So I'm like, good thing I went to Scotland, or I would not have been on the same continent. Right, so there's a pat on the back for divine intervention, natural intervention, intervention from the devil of you chose the right time to go to Scotland. Okay. How long it took me to learn about the new world record. This is a world record that to date I have encountered zero press for, that I did not seek out myself, which is quite profound, because I think the world record before it was like the 1990s. Like, maybe the United States of America just doesn't care about the mile. Right? It doesn't say much for like the cold. I'm like, Sifan Hassan is Ethiopia born and competes representing the Netherlands. In the 1 mile run, world record holders of recent are not United States of Americans. right, so it's more of an international, like as a non-American race these days, and that has been accurately reflected by the lack of press coverage that has come across my path. Now I have sought out this kind of stuff, but it does not necessarily come from the United States of America. I don't know why that is. It is, as a runner, I find that a little disconcerting, especially since Americans, for whatever reason, want to have some sort of ownership of the mile, even though it comes from the British Isles and like ancient Rome or whatever. It's like, it was not very much not American, especially not Native Americans, right? The actual original Americans, kind of thing. So yeah, I disconnect there. Which I thought was worth contextualizing. I found out it was broken because I sought out that myself, which maybe was part of the physical proximity aspect. I knew to check. Like, maybe that's what happens. There's a shared human consciousness, and that I'm a she, her, hers, and on some level I knew it had been broken, so I knew to check. Yeah. Okay, different running physiques. So her physique, I've already said that my physique is kind of like hers. And especially she has meaty, tiny thighs. Okay, which is a way of saying she has strong legs. Even though they're small, it's not the thigh gap body type, right? She has meat on her inner thighs, which you can see she wears, right? Like tight leggings and stuff. And it's kind of on display in running per modern attire. Though she's more conservative than some of the other people on the track. She wears shorts, whereas some people wear kind of like the Speedo bottoms. She's a little bit more conservative dressed. Which I'm more conservative dressed, so I like this about her. And I would say she has more shoulder muscle than I do, like this neck to shoulder muscle. And if I had to venture a guess and like watching and stuff, I'm like, I've been not her skinny, but like I've been skinnier than I am now before, and I'm like, the biggest difference, if I'm gauging it correctly, is my shoulder width, I would guess, is bigger. It might look like I have narrower hips, but it might actually be more of like my shoulder width is bigger, so it looks like my hips are narrower, which they might be, but because it's bigger, my hips might look narrower, that kind of thing. She has a true runner's physique. She doesn't overly buff up her upper body. I should say, which I respect. It's not about intimidating the others on the track. The Americans and some of the British runners, especially in middle distance, kind of do that, where it's kind of meant to intimidate the competitors, because sometimes there's elbowing and sometimes there's pulling a competitor down or colliding with a competitor, right? And so the muscles from the Americans or the British runners might be kind of about intimidating the competitor of, yeah, you think I'm going to play nice, but I could pull you down if I want to. All right, that kind of thing. So I have a lot of respect for Hassan's physique, especially for this performance. I'm contextualizing this performance for not being overly developed on the upper part of her body, because it to me and runners more generally, like having competed in track and field and stuff, it's the respected true runner's physique, in part because it shows fidelity to the sport of running. If somebody's really working on developing their upper body and they're running, and especially middle distance running, it's kind of like, that's nice. Why are you doing that? You're not doing that for the track. All right. So it's having too much upper body muscle can be kind of interpreted as infidelity, right? Not necessarily being loyal to the sport by developing the body in a way that does not necessarily translate to the sport of running. Right, or the activity of running more specifically. So she has a true runner's physique, a little bit different than mine, and I would say she's middle distance runners are lean, so especially at the time of filming this, she's far more representative of the true runner's physique than I am currently. All right, and then my last thing, and my first time, so the last contextualization one is my first time training runner workout with my new pair of Brooks Launch 10 shoes. So that was my 5.80 mile walk run set that I dedicated is inspired by Arne Andersson and experienced vocalizations by a frog, a gray squirrel, and a northern flicker for Arne, Sifan, and Doris Brown Heritage. Yes, so today, Monday, 29 January 2024, I did my first Arne Andersson inspired walk run or run. And I wore my new pair of Brooks Launch 10 shoes that I bought yesterday. And they're nice and they look like they've been out for a run or walk around. I got some dirt on them. So the soles, what they look like. And they were wonderful. My legs were happy. My upper legs were like, this is so nice. And it was the best, they might actually be the best pair of shoes I've ever had at break-in. Like breaking them in, as in like first time out training in them, I only scuffed the bottom 3 times in a 5.8 mile segment. That's incredible. So they're currently on that one metric above any other pair of shoes I've had for my training for this kind of distance. And so it was my first Arne Andersson inspired walk around, and this is directly relevant, it's not a tangent, for the Sifan Hassan thing, because I was out there and I was thinking of my Arne Andersson, and Doris Brown Heritage actually came out when I was thinking about her too, but I was thinking about deciding on how to contextualize this performance. And I was out there and I experienced, they were calling to all 3, each one. There was a frog in Snohomish County, because I walk around through King County and Snohomish County. So in Snohomish County, there was a frog that vocalized for all 3. Then back in King County, there was a gray squirrel and a northern flicker. And they were all like, we want all 3! We want all 3! So, you know, for the people who I'm filming this, I'm talking about, and they know when I'm thinking about something, you know, sometimes they just chime in, like the animals, I'll be thinking about something and they chime in and I'm like, you guys know what I'm thinking. And sometimes we'll say something out loud, you know, and a frog will ribbit, you know, that kind of thing. And today it was about Arne, Sifan, and Doris Brown Heritage. So I'm like, all right, you guys make it into the athletic performance contextualization. So yeah, but I was thinking about how do I contextualize this as well, because especially with the Arne Andersson run that the contextualization on that in terms of like continuing running during a world war, yeah, it's sometimes the inspiration is trying to contextualize my current run itself. So in that sense, it's like an embedded contextualization, and instead of like the Jacobingebrigtsen embedded 1 mile. Was that? Yeah, that was Jacobingebrigtsen. Yeah. So, yeah, which is my training specifics, but that's part of the contextualization, because if Sifan Hassan is watching this, a frog says hello, a gray squirrel says hello, and a northern flicker says hello, and they support you, and I support you. So there we go. So that's my take on the Sifan Hassan 1 mile run, 4 minutes, 12.33 seconds from 12 July 2019.